Wow, what a film. Hi, I'm Roger Sherman. I am a founder of Florentine Films, a documentary filmmaker, and I'm on the Hamptons Doc Fest advisory board. And we're very, very pleased to have director Daphne Matziaraki here to talk about her wonderful film, The Battle of Laikipia. We Are Not the Machine. This is part of our Hamptons Doc Fest tribute to the Ford Foundation Just Films. Um, Welcome, Daphne.
Thank you so much, Roger. Thank you, Hamptons Doc Fest, for having us, showing our film. It's such an honor to be here with you.
Great. Now, there's a co-director, Peter Marimi, if I have that straight. Um,
Absolutely.
so you were born in Greece, you moved to Kenya for a while, then you moved to the United States. Now you're back full time in Greece. Um, Tell us about co-directing. That's not an easy thing. Who's got control? Who makes the final decision? What happens if you disagree on something? Do you arm wrestle?
I just came back from Amsterdam, from IDFA Documentary Film Festival, where I was with about it's about three, four um, other documentary films that also premiered with us at Sundance and have done the festival round, and they are all co-directed. So we were really talking about that. It's such an interesting, such a great question. And, I do have a lot to say about this. I will just start by the fact that I am not Kenyan, I am Greek. And I moved to Kenya in 2004. So that was 20 years ago when I got my first internship with the United Nations Environment Program, way before I got into documentary film. And I was working on climate change mitigation there, and I traveled a lot, and I made a lot of friends. I established relationships. I stayed in Kenya for quite a few years, and I got to understand the place and the language, the main language Swahili, quite well. And it was way before the climate change discussion was official, but it was already obvious in a lot of areas. And in 2004, a very similar conflict to the one that we filmed in 2017 had just erupted. So I knew that there was a very big story that was unfolding. I also had friends. I had a very, very good friend who was, fourth generation um, British. And I remember his mother saying to me, we are always with one foot here and one foot in England. It's a very weird place. So, both these things really triggered me. I knew that there was a very big story relating to climate change, but I also knew that there was a very big story that was relating to home identity and belonging and the unresolved history that is all not only an issue in Kenya. It's so topical, so relevant to so many different places all over the world. I knew there was a story. I didn't have the skills to make this story. So um, fast forward many years after that, and after being a journalist and always going back to Kenya to report, um, I moved to the United States, and a few years in, I went to do my second master's in Berkeley, Graduate School of Journalism in documentary. And after I finished my first film, 4.1 Miles, that was nominated for an Academy Award, it was during the Oscars campaign where I got an email from a very good friend of mine in Kenya, pointing me to one of our main characters, Maria's blog. And, you know, she told me, look what's happening in Laikipia. So it was then when I met our executive producer, Roger Ross Williams, who is an acclaimed and Oscar winning documentary filmmaker. He's African
And a great
American.
mentor. I'm sure he's a great mentor.
Is an amazing mentor. And he had just started his production company, One Story Up, from which not only was he producing his own films, but he was aiming to help emerging documentary filmmakers with their work. So I met him in this Oscar campaigning season. He had a film called Life Animated then. And I told him, hey, Roger, there is a film that I really, really, really want to make. And I told him about Laikipia. And coincidentally, he had been to Laikipia many times and he knew exactly what I was talking about. And we both agreed that I could not make this film alone. Although I knew the place, although I understood the situation, I was always an outsider, which was a blessing in so many, ways, but also there was a part that was missing. And, so he pointed me to Tony Kamau, our amazing Kenyan producer. And, it was an urgent situation. So we immediately started filming. But we also started talking immediately to my co-director, Pete Murimi, who's also Kenyan. And he was finishing his other film, I Am Samuel, at that time. So we got, kind of like 1.5, 2 years in the filming, finally Pete finished his film. And it was such a relief for me, for Pete to come, because it is a very complex, delicate issue. There is one thing that is, I am not from Kenya. I am a white woman, and I'm not going to hide, from that. And, I come to this with my own, perceptions and prejudices and experiences. So for me, it was a time I was actually 7 months pregnant, and it was also a time when I really, really wanted somebody that is from Kenya to come and really, help in this. And I needed a partner that I could talk to about it. We could argue, we could agree, we could disagree, we could, talk to our characters from a different perspective. So this film is based on the trust that we built with our characters. So it was something that I initially worked on for so hard, but when Pete came, it was like such an additional, in a way, bonus, and he brought in the film so much wisdom, so much perspective. We did have disagreements, we did have clashes, but always constructive, always productive. I mean, I was so blessed with Peter because he's just a dream person. He's just a dear friend. I'm not sure if everyone co-directing has the same experience. What I know is making films is very difficult. Documentary films is really hard. It's not a solo kind of like
very
work.
Collaborative, very collaborative.
It is so collaborative, and tackling these difficult subjects, and also the difficulty of actually making the film and editing the film and how long it takes. It's really almost an impossible thing to do alone. So I'm so grateful to have had Pete as my partner in this.
It's amazing that any film could first get funding to get made, which is a whole other topic, but that a film could get finished is an incredible thing. People don't realize what it takes to make a film. So Did you move to Kenya for that whole time? How long was the shoot? Did you go back and forth? Here you were now with a child.
Two.
What were the logistics of that?
Yeah, so initially we did get our first grant from the Pulitzer Center and then from the Sundance Institute. And I did move there for, um, it was an initial of 6 months. Then I went briefly back to the States where I was based, for a few months, 2 months maybe, to raise more money. And then I moved to Kenya for almost a year.
So
And then it was
you were shooting a film with a newborn baby.
no, no, the baby came after the pandemic.
Okay.
It was towards the end. It was after
Okay.
we were almost done when I had my first baby. So it was, I was living there for big chunks and going back and forth in the States. But it was, months and months time. It's a very difficult, tough terrain. The logistics are very complicated. Um, the distances are so big that it's such an expansive area and remote. So you really needed to be there. We
Of
needed to
course.
show up, be there every day for our characters, for the people that showed us trust, um, day in, day out, because they had trusted us and their lives, and they were experiencing an incredibly complicated and difficult and dangerous situation. And they accepted us to film them in this very vulnerable time. So we had to be there. If we were away for extensive periods of time, they would wonder, where are they? Have they forgotten about us? And like I said before, this film is, the core of it is a trust that and the
Yeah.
relationships that we build
Yeah.
with all of our characters. So it was very,
So
very important to be there, no matter if we were shooting or not.
So obviously, in any film, a documentary, a narrative film, drama is important. That tension that was there could have simmered for years. Why did you decide to film then?
Yes, exactly. It's such a good question. Like I initially said, I knew that there was a story there. A, I didn't have the skills to tell it. B, um, it hadn't triggered. It was like simmering. So once this conflict erupted, I know that this was a way to tell, just following the drama was a way to tell this larger story. And following the drama unfolding would be something that the audience could understand and get in the story. It was the vehicle through which to tell this very complex, nuanced story.
Yes. So the other thing about great films is you have to be flexible. You never know what's going to change, how the situation's going to change. So you have a simmering political situation. You have then the fighting, then the rains come. This is perfect dramatic timing. It's like you directed it. Okay, let's have the rain. Okay, let's have the election. Then you have the fighting. Um, that was just amazing. And you and Peter both shot where you had two different crews and you said, okay, I'm going to go here today. I'm going to go there today. How did that logistics work?
So in total, we filmed for a period of 5.5 years. Um, we followed this massive drought cycle. Started with this first election period and kind of like ending into almost a second election period. And the reason we did that, like, was just to show the fact that every time it's like it's a cycle that we have not put exact dates, because the what happens in this area is that it's the same pattern. When there is rain, there is calm, and when there is drought, it is like the Wild West, and when there is an election and drought, that's when it all hell, happens. So we knew that, we followed that, we were patient. It was very rare. It was only one or two times actually that both Pete and I were in the field and we were shooting different. So it was a two crew situation. It was
Oh,
usually one of
wow.
us because Pete is Kenyan, but he has a full-time job in the UK. And so, whenever he could get time off, he was coming to Kenya to shoot. And so it would be like when I couldn't be there, Pete would be there, and when Pete couldn't be there, I would be there.
Can I ask, is Peter black?
He's black, yes.
So that obviously makes a big difference. Um, Tell me about the title, The Battle for Laikipia.
Yes, that's another great question, Roger. um, it is something that we could not decide on until very, very last minute. The
I'm
title.
sorry. Also, we are not the machine. That subtitle is also very, very important, I imagine. How did you come up with that?
We Are Not the Machine is the Kenyan production company. It's not part of the title. The
Oh,
title of
it's
the
not.
film.
Okay, my
Mm,
bad. Sorry.
it's okay. The title of the film is The Battle for Laikipia, and it's a title that we couldn't decide until a very last minute. There were multiple discussions, and we initially wanted to title the film just Laikipia, but talking about it, we it was two things. One was we thought that we thought that the audience would not understand what Laikipia means,
Right.
um, and it means nothing to somebody that does not know that it is a place in Kenya. But it is a battle. It is not, you know, necessarily an armed battle. It is more, um, I would say, an ideological or even kind of like a spiritual battle for the future of this place. So, and, and an armed battle as well. So we thought that that was reflecting the situation and more, you know, more than showing the divide, it would be more like maybe a common battle for the future of Laikipia.
Yeah, it's titles are the hardest thing to come up with. It takes forever. But if you think about it, people who don't know your film, they're just going to see that. It used to be in the TV guide, but still today comes up. And so you have to draw them in some way. I mean, it can really drive you crazy. It's a great title.
Thank
Daphne
you.
Matziaraki, we thank you so much for bringing your film to Hamptons Doc Fest. One more very quick question. We're just about out of time. What are you working on?
Thank you for that. I'm actually taking a little bit of time, quiet time off, although, um, I am working on something. I have started working on something, and it is happening here in Greece. And you'll be surprised about how similar a situation um, is. It has nothing to do with colonialism, but it has to do with climate change and unresolved issues that um, are always kind of like underneath the surface. And when climate change, shows its face, these issues come on the top and create the chaos. So it's taking place here in Greece. It is about terrible wildfire that took place in 2018,
Right.
but it's much more than that.
Great. Well, Daphne, we thank you so much, and we wish you all the best.
Thank
And
you.
please come back to Hampton Doc Fest. We'll see you then.
Thank you so much.